The Road Home by Penstroke. Chapter 13. Belly of the Beast. The sun was red from the smoke of 1,000 fires. The ravenous flames speckled the horizon, consuming forests, meadows, villages, and cities alike. They swept and roared, ever moving across the landscape, fueled by the driving wind. There was no relief from the heat. There were no Pegasi in the sky to bring the rain to deter the fire's advance. There were no unicorns with spells to smother the blaze. There were no earth ponies with their mighty strength to dig fire trenches. For even on a day when all of Equestria was burning, the ponies could not stop to save their homes and businesses. Not when their lives and freedom were in much greater danger. The Diamond Dogs had risen up under the leadership of their new lord and master. With the magic of the kingdom sucked away, the ponies could not stand against the dogs. The dogs pillaged and ransacked, an unforgiving tide that was washing across the landscape and leaving nothing but fires in their wake. Ponies who surrendered were brought to heel, shackled and marched to labor camps, where they would attempt to sate the dogs' bottomless greed for gemstones. Ponies who resisted were killed where they stood, left beaten and bloodied and unburied where they fell. Those who hid were spared the dogs' wrath, but were often sealed into their homes to face the inescapable fires. It was a tragedy. A genocide of pony kind being played out with cruel efficiency. Lives, millennia of culture and traditions, and vast stores of wisdom were all being wiped away and become nothing more than a footnote in the history books of the conquerors. It was all happening before Twilight's eyes, and it was all her fault. The sharp cry of another young life being snuffed made her strain against her confinement. To the top of a tower of Nightstone Castle she had been chained. A shackle wore away at the fur in her neck and ankles. Her wings gone, plucked from her back like petals of a flower before the stumps were cauterized by fire. Her horn was dust on the wind, smashed by the swift strike of a dog's hammer, leaving only a splintered base behind. She was bloodied. She was beaten. But unlike the others, she was not allowed to die, nor was she enslaved. Her torment was watched, to remain nothing but a observer of all the disaster wrought because of her failure. Her friends, the other princesses, discord! Even her family had either been slain or chained, and it was all her fault.
That one sounded particularly gruesome, don't you think, Princess? I wonder if it was another little Pegasi getting his wings plucked. The Diamond Dogs seem to have taken a liking to making themselves necklaces and headdresses for the spoils of war.
T-Rex chuckled to himself as he sat on his throne. After absorbing all the magic of the nation once more, the centaur regarded his gigantic stature. Ruins of Nightstone Castle were now his seat, rubbles of bricks and beams, plenty comfortable for his near impervious hide. The only part of the castle that remained undamaged was the tower where Twilight was chained. A tower now raised her up to T-Rex eye level and the bird in the cage. She surveyed the destruction of the nation like an artist admiring his masterpiece. He returned with fury, and this time there were no elements, no box, and no tree to help save the day. Only Twilight and her friends stood against T-Rex, and they had fallen. They had failed, and now all of Equestria was suffering for it. The unforgiving wind brought a rise of smells to Twilight's nose. She would have cried, but dehydration had set in. Her lips were split, tongue was dry and swollen and heavy in her mouth. She might have passed out if it were not for T-Rex magic. It alone kept her on the brink of survival. Too weak to fight, too strong to die, and unable to do anything but bear witnesses to the results of her failure. Another sharp cry in the distance, from the smoldering remains of Ponyville, reached Twilight's ears. It was a foal, a newborn, who was now in a very cruel world without its parents. T-Rex too heard the noise. He drew up a hand in the direction of the town.
I think I hear it out in the midst.
T-Rex said as his magic located the foal. A tiny pony was drawn from the wreckage of Ponyville, carrying by the levitation spell until it was floating before Twilight and T-Rex. It was a filly Twilight didn't recognize. The only babies she really knew well were Pumpkin and Pound, yet she tugged at their shackles with renewed vigor, trying to reach the filly as she continued to wail in the grip of T-Rex magic. With but a gentle inhale, the spark of magic left the filly and was drawn into T-Rex's mouth. He smacked his lips at what was possibly the last taste of equestrian magic in the world. He then turned and looked at Twilight, a sneer forming on his lips as his levitation spell carried the child within Twilight's reach. She looked on in disbelief, but didn't hesitate a moment. She scooped the filly away from T-Rex magic and tried to calm the filly with sweet whispers and gentle rocking.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Your sense of motherhood is strong even now.
T-Rex chuckled as he rested his chin on one of his palms.
It's a shame you weren't able to offer such condolences to your own daughter as her life drained from her body.
He'll be all right. Twilight paid no attention to T-Rex, devoting all she could offer to the filly. A sweet little thing, with a long curly mane and cream-colored coat, and blue eyes that matched her hair. I won't let him hurt you.
You won't let me?
T-Rex said, a smile growing like he was tasting a delectable treat.
I'm tempted to let you keep that little promise you just made. You just have to do one little thing.
Twilight looked in T-Rex's direction. Anything.
Drop her.
Twilight's blood froze as T-Rex's words echoed into the sky, into the very depths of her soul. She looked at the filly, just now starting to calm down. She had been scared, but the presence of a caring adult was quieting her cries. Twilight felt T-Rex's shadow loom behind her, his hot breath washing over her body with every syllable.
I will enslave that filly in the West Diamond mine. As soon as she can walk, she'll walk. She'll never know anything but my iron-fisted rule, and I will personally ensure her suffering will be of legendary quality. But if you drop her right now, let her fall from the top of your tower, then she will be spared. Kill the filly, Twilight, and you can save her from a fate far worse than death.
No! No, I won't! Twilight clutched the foal tighter, even as he felt T-Rex magic trying to pull her away. No, 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 no!
You can't stop me, Twilight. There's no hope for you in this nation, but maybe you can save this little one. Stain your hose with her blood, and she'll never know how horribly you failed your family, your friends, and your kingdom.
T-Rex cast a little magic out, and the filly giggled. A tickle, a tease, and the filly was smiling in Twilight's embrace.
You can make her last moments happy. All you have to do is drop her.
Penstroke, this is Trixie speaking. Would you kindly stop riding T-Rex? You're making him scary! I'm not scared. And why are you shaking? Shut up! A few tears managed to squeeze out Twilight's eyes. She kept shaking her head, trying to defy T-Rex in his sick game, but then felt the filly being pulled away. As she snapped, she held her even tighter. I'll do it. T-Rex sat back in his ruined castle of a throne and made a small urging gesture with his hand. Twilight carried him down for a few seconds, then looked back at the foal. The foal with the cream-colored coat and purple mane, a mane so much like Nyx's. A tremor filled her heart, and her breathing became short. Yet Twilight inclined herself to the edge of the tower. Far below, although awaited the foal was a pile of shattered stone and splintered timbers. It was certain death, but the filly giggled. Suddenly a lovely voice, like a glass harp. Twilight's lip trembled as she began to hold the filly at legs length. Oh, she's going to drop poor little Flurry. It was such a beautiful filly, with her black coat and purple mane, so much like Nyx. Twilight couldn't deny. She wondered at times what Nyx would have been like as a younger foal. As a mother, she had been spared the dairy diapers, but did not get to see a first wobbly step, or hear Nyx babble inconsistently as foals tend to do. Now she had to deny this filly a chance of growing up, to spare her the horrors she experienced in T-Rex's world. She wanted to believe there was hope, that T-Rex would be felled, but there was no one left to fight. There was no more magic to fight with. Everyone she loved and cared for was dead or enslaved. The least she could do was save this one little filly. I'm sorry. It'll be okay, she said, trying to force a smile as her whole body trembled. She tried to let go, but she couldn't. She could not make herself do it. She tried to bring the filly back to her chest, but there was a nudge from T-Rex magic. The filly slipped, timidly free of Twilight's grip. She gasped to reach, but the chains on her shackles snapped taut, holding her back.
Failed again. Princess. Twilight sparkle.
T-Rex said, watching the whole scene play out like it was an amusing little puppet show. The filly dropped, her giggles turning to screams as fear once more filled her tiny body to capacity. Twilight looked down from the edge of the tower, the stubs of her wings trying to grant her flight as her horns sputtered with broken magic. She reached for her forehoof, pleading that something would give. She prayed that the shackles of her own joints would break apart and let her fall, so she could save the filly or join in the release of death. But no such mercy occurred. The filly fell, and fell until she was but a breath away from the stones. Twilight wanted to close her eyes. She wanted to cover her ears and deaden all her senses. But she could not look away. She could only strain against her shackles one final time, reaching for the filly as a few dry, rasping words escaped her lips. "I'm sorry." The filly hit the stones. She bounced back into the air. Both T-Rex and Twilight gawked in disbelief as the filly bounced like a ball back up to the top of the tower, returning to Twilight's waiting forelegs. She couldn't believe it. She even wondered if her mind had snapped and this was just a hallucination. But she didn't care. Twilight lavished the filly with hugs and kisses, fresh and bountiful tears flowing from her eyes. Tears of joy flowed freely from the tears of sorrow had gone dry. T-Rex bore a deep scowl as he rose from his throne, and looked down at the rubble that should have been the foal's death.
What magic is this?
Why, it's our latest and greatest invention! Super Baby Proofing Spray! Never fear with your dear baby. One quick spray takes all the danger away! Twilight looked at the rest of the voices, seeing two ponies standing on T-Rex's back. That would be the horseback, not the giant back. The Flim Flam brothers gave her a happy rave as they stood, wearing their now famed show pony smiles. We hope that in the future, Princess, we can count on you for our glowing recommendation of all our products.
I don't know how you two eluded me, but now your magic is mine.
T-Rex opened his mouth, unhitching it as far as he could, before beginning to draw on the brother's magic. Yet with a soft crack, a punch connected with his chin. His jaw snapped shut. The gigantic centaur was tumbling back up into one lone tower. The stone battlement remained standing against the blow. But Twilight had to hug the filly tight to her chest, to be sure she wouldn't lose the grip a second time. Hope you didn't fill up on all that magic, T-Rex, because the all-you-can-eat buffet of butt-kicking just opened! Nix. Oh, brother. Twilight knew that voice. Her dry lips cracked into a smile as she cracked her shackles. He was standing on top of a pile of rubble, red cape flapping in the breeze, and his claws formed into mighty fists. Even though the smoke and haze, she knew those scales and she knew those spines. She couldn't believe it. It had to be an hallucination. Her sanity had to have fled her mind upon seeing the filly die. Yet she smiled all the same, tearing his name to the sky. Spike!
The dragon is not possible,
T-Rex said as he climbed back to his hose.
I slew you myself. I used you in yellow confetti to break Twilight's mind. You can't be alive!
Well, let's check. Heart beating, lungs breathing, fist punching. I think that calls me is alive and kicking. And speaking of kicking, Spike knelt down and leapt forward with a sounding force. He flew through the air like he had been hurled by a catapult. T-Rex tried to rise from his hands to swat Spike away. But the centaur reacted too quickly. Spike got in close and delivered a roundhouse kick directly to T-Rex's jaw. Like the punch before it, the force of the blow made T-Rex stumble. He fell into the tower that Twilight stood upon, and this time the stones could not withstand the impact. The tower began to crumble, leaving Twilight to scream. She clutched the filly to her chest and closed her eyes as they plummeted to the ground below. I gotcha! Twilight felt the embrace of the magic enveloped her, warm and familiar. She lifted her eyes and looked up, and once more her heart soared with a fountain of joy. It was Cadance. She was supposed to be dead. Her, Shining, and their unbound foal were supposed to have been crushed beneath the Crystal Palace when T-Rex destroyed it. Yet her coat was pristine, and she looked like she had never been pregnant. You're alive! Twilight shouted, above the sound of wind as Cadance flew towards a nearby hilltop. I was never dead, Cadance said as the pair landed, joining two other figures on top of the hill. One was Biscuit, though Twilight hardly recognized him. He was in a dapper little suit with diamonds for buttons and cufflinks. He stood with a diamond-topped cane, and even one of his teeth had been replaced with a diamond. The other was a changeling, S-43, though now she wore a pair of reading glasses and a pair of saddlebags laden with books. "Good catch!" Biscuit cheered. "Biscuit thought you wanted to catch her!" There was a gentle tap on his shoulder from S-43. He sighed and tossed a few dreamed-up diamonds from his pocket into her waiting hoof. "Thank yous," S-43 said, putting the diamonds in with her books before approaching Twilight, magic greasy for the shackles. "Let me try and take those things off." "But this is impossible." Twilight tried to shy away from S-43, but the changeling didn't allow it. "You two helped T-Rex take over. Biscuit, you were with Duke when he took the Crystal Empire. I watched it through T-Rex vision spell. S-43, you and the changeling infiltrated and brought down the barrier around Canterlot. Cadence, I watched you die. I watched you get crushed and shiny." "Biscuit no longer works for Duke. Biscuit, help ponies. Biscuit, left ponies. Ponies going to give Biscuit 2 suitcases of just those for helping." The spine dog clenched his diamond top cane to his chest. So many gems. "But I saw—" "Twilight, you listen to me." Cadence put her hose on her sister-in-law's shoulders, forcing Twilight to look her straight in the eye. "No one's dead. None of this is real. This is just a— What are you talking about? Look around you!" Twilight pulled herself away from Cadence, still causing the feeling to her chest. Wing Stub visited, since he was trying to point with the feathers that weren't there anymore. "It's a miracle you're all alive. You have to run before T-Rex kills you. Just take Spike and get out of Equestria. There's no stopping T-Rex now. You have to calm down and listen, Twilight. Remember that trick I taught you." Cadence brought her hoof to her chest, drawing in a breath as she did, then extended her hoof out while exhaling. "You think that's going to help? Equestria's dead, and I killed it. I failed to stop T-Rex. I failed my friends when it mattered most, and now everyone but you and Spike are dead. Breathing isn't going to bring anyone back. Breathing isn't going to do anything." Twilight was screaming, unleashing all her pent-up rage on Cadence. "I failed! We failed! And you're telling me to breathe? You should be worrying about yourself! About your child!" Cadence winced, and a resounding boom filled the air. All eyes turned to look at T-Rex, and released a powerful blast of magical energy. The Flim brothers were flying some sort of contraption of metal and wood, launching beams of magic at T-Rex, while Spike picked himself off the ground, wiped away some of the blood from his nose, then led to the fray. "Hell!" Keenan's paged word made Twilight look back, seeing her stepsister sinking to the ground as he placed a hoof on her gravid belly. "See? You have to think about your false life, Cadence. Just run away!" S-43 moved up beside Cadence. Her words hushed as he offered a hoof to help. "I thought—" "She's one of the most brilliant unicorns in Equestria." Cadence hauled herself back up to her host, wobbling a little as he tried to get her balance. "She's also one of the most imaginative when it comes to bad situations. I guess we should have known this wasn't going to be easy. Also, for the record, Twilight, I'm not this big!" "Of course you are! You're pregnant!" Twilight shouted, stepping back from the trio. "Biscuit, S, just take Cadence and leave. I'll run the other way. Maybe I can get away with this little one. Maybe we can escape. Escape is the only option. We can't beat T-Rex. It's impossible. Spike, Flim and Flam, you should just run." A sharp slap cut the air. Winced. S-43 finished with her shackles, but was now glaring at the princess. "You are too hysterical, Princess Sparkle. You must listen." And Twilight slapped S-43 back, interrupting the changelingers rudely. "No! You aren't historical enough! T-Rex has all the magic in Equestria. He's too powerful. He's going to blow everyone away!" Another earth-shaking boom erupted from the flight. A loud cloud of smoke filled the area where T-Rex had been, and 3 figures were sent flying through the air, leaving behind black trails of smoke. Cadence extended her magic, reaching out to catch the Flim brothers. Spike was not as fortunate. The muscular dragon rusted the ground at Twilight's host, leaving a deep crater in the ground. He was thin and scraped, but even through his injuries, he struggled to pull himself up. "Ugh, I don't get it. Why is this happening?" "Because you can't beat T-Rex," Twilight said as she stood in the crater. "You shouldn't have come back for me. You should have just saved yourself, Spike. If you had done that, you would have had a chance to save Equestria. You could have done what I failed to do. Twilight, you haven't failed. This is just a... Yes, I did. T-Rex won. That means I lost. I lost everything. I lost my friends. I lost my home. I lost my family. And the fact any of you is alive is a miracle or a delusion. Now run! Run before it's too late!
It's already too late.
T-Rex stepped out of the wall of smoke caused by his attack, towering over Twilight and the others like an angry deity. The aura of magic between his horns glowed a murderous red, and his eyes were focused on the ponies below like they were insects to be squashed.
This rebellion ends now!
Biscuit hid behind Canes' tail, pointing at T-Rex over his cane. Is that bad? That looks bad! Biscuit thinks this is bad! Where did that attack come from? We were winning! Flam said, his mustache and eyebrows sins. It's Twilight. She's so sure we can't win that she's making us lose, S43 said. What about Nyx? Canes asked. Where is she? She was supposed to follow us in. Maybe we can talk some sense into her. Nyx is dead. Twilight clutched the filly to her chest tightly, bracing her as T-Rex prepared to unleash his attack. Soon, we're all going to be dead too. All because of me. She looked up at T-Rex orb of magic, the world growing silent around her as the inevitable end raced towards them. She was sorry. She wished she could go back and change it. She wished she could go back and make it all better. At the very least, she wished she could go back for just a moment to see everyone's smiling faces again. She could picture them now. Applejack, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, Celestia, Luna, Shining, Cadence, Spike, and Nyx. She would give anything to see them all again, alive and happy. Perhaps, even in the last moments, she could imagine it was true. They were all alive, and there was she hugging Nyx and Spike to her chests. They were a happy family again. Tira's spell was unleashed, and it fell them within moments. It was hot, and the light was so bright it threatened to sear Twilight's eyes. Yet the only pain she felt was the same ache she had been enduring on the tower. Was this death? To be cursed to live your last moment for eternity? Maybe that was a fitting judgment. She'd never be able to forget just how rudely screwed up the world was. Yet eternity did not last. The blinding light began to fade, to be replaced with a subtle glow of dark purple. Twilight's vision began to clear, and her ears rang from the aftershock of the blast. She began to feel again. She felt the dirt beneath her hooves. But something was missing. The filly was gone. Grasped at her chest, looked around. She could not see the filly. Where the filly had gone? Perhaps more important, how did they say it survive? She went towards T-Rex and saw a figure standing between them and the mountainous villain. It was a mare with a tall, royal stature. She wore battle armor, and a mare most would call Nightmare Moon. Yet, the distinctive blue shield on her flank made the air catch at Twilight's lungs. It couldn't be. Yet, if Spike had survived, maybe it was true. Could she dare to let herself believe that her family had survived? Okay, this was a crowning moment of awesome for Nyx. So, if you guys want, there's a song called Dance With My Nightmare you could play. Personally, I want to use All My Life from Gran Turismo 4. That song is awesome. Or even Foo Fighters' version of All My Life. Spike, are you okay? A little scuffed, that's all. Where were you? Spike stood up and walked beside the armored alicorn as her barrier spell faded. Twilight's dream wouldn't let me in when she began wanting everyone to run away. Her imagination was being stubborn. That sure sounds like our Twilight. Spike chuckles as he popped his knuckles. Now, why do you want to do this? You attack, I defend. The armored alicorn said as he spread her wings. And we show that this bad dream, we're not scared of it. Dream? Twilight muttered, her mind trying to guess what was trying to be said. She reached out for the pair, but they leapt into battle with T-Rex. The giant centaur bellowed and furry, but the two fought undaunted. Spike landed blows, causing T-Rex to stagger. The centaur cast out his magic and the devastating beams of red magic, but they crashed against the alicorn's shield spells like water against the rocky shore. Together, the two weren't not only holding their ground, but they were being T-Rex back. Yet to Twilight, the true miracle of the moment was one simple fact. They're alive. Nyx and Spike are both alive! Yes, Kane said as he moved up beside Twilight. No one is dead. None of this happened. This is just a dream. Remember the Ouroboros. Remember the mountains. Twilight stared at Kane a moment, as if the words had been spoken in a foreign language. Then the realization hit. The memories hidden behind the dream's veil broke free. The snapping of the Ouroboros jaws, the fall into darkness. A shiver carried up Twilight's spine. Her breathing began to shallow. As she looked at the sky like it might constrict about him. We're in the belly of a giant snake! The snake part really isn't what is important, Kane said with a sharp snap to her words. Spike said you know how to get us out. Right. The Ouroboros is a dream part, eating part is what's important. Twilight closed her eyes and shook her head, trying to control her breathing. Twilight then tapped a hoof to her forehead, trying to make certain knowledge bubble to the surface. Okay. There's never been one this big in recorded history. I have heard some theories that the Rainbow Range's uniquely burning trees were probably caused by a high Ouroboros population. This, then, was even a prime hunting ground in the early years of the kingdom, when they were used as a cure for bad dreams. It was right after Princess Luna's coup, when Equestria was having to deal with its worst nightmares for the first time. A beam of T-Rex magic went wide from the flight, cutting a trench into the ground near Twilight, Cadence, Biscuit, Flim, Flam, and S-43, nearly blowing the six off balance. Biscuit leapt onto S-43's back. The changeling glared ahead at the nearby princesses, and she shouted about the sounds of combat. Do you think you could remember something useful? I'm trying! Twilight snapped back before she saw their hope and smiled. Wait, that's it! We have to find the snake, to manipulate the dreamer. The Ouroboros has to anchor itself inside the dream of the creature it's feeding on. If we can find it, we can make it release us or leave the dream. If it does the former, we'll escape. If it does the latter, then we'll wake up and still be able to escape. Twilight's nose grunts, and her brow furrowed as something wasn't adding up in her head. But how did you all get here without knowing that? It was Nyx and Spike, Kane said, looking up at the Paris who were continuing to battle T-Rex. Nyx bringing out her broadsword. Ahem! No using your version of Nyx! Sorry. I just love writing adult Nyx so much. Nyx was able to get out of her dream, and Spike figured out that this was that, and what they needed to save everyone. If it wasn't for them, we'd probably been trapped in here until Luna and Celestia came looking for us. Tori turned slowly, looking up at the battle of titans happening before her. Nyx and Spike weren't just safe. They were saving everyone else. They were young. The attempts at inserting Wendy Banner into the fight made it clear to Twilight that the more mature bodies only masked the dragon and fillies he cared for. But at the same time, they were perhaps more capable than he gave them credit. They escaped the Diamond Dogs and found the Flim Flam brothers. They had gotten out of their dreams and were now trying to rescue her. They were stronger than she gave them credit. And why wouldn't they be? They had both faced their own obstacles in life and overcame them. They were doing what she would have failed to do on her own. Equestria needed her. But if she failed, it wouldn't spell certain doom. There were a lot of good ponies in Equestria. A lot of good ponies who would take up the fight if she and her friends failed. Even robbed of their magic, Equestria would find a way to fight back. And even if it couldn't be done alone, then they would reach out to their friends. The griffins, the zebras, the yaks. Oh, especially the yaks. Can you imagine how annoying they would be to T-Rex?
Centaur not perfect! Yak smash!
And all the other species of the world. The boars. The elk. Oh wait, the elks are aliens. They live on another planet. There! Happy RPG lover! I gave you a shout out! Now stop calling me! Equestria had friends. When it came down to the wire, they would count on those friends to help. That was what was wonderful about friendship. Your friends help you, and if that's not enough, your friends will call in their friends. It was an ever-extending web that encompassed the whole world. And when every single hoof, claw, wing, and horn helped, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. Twilight smiled and visited her wing stubs, an aura of magic starting to encircle her form. She had responsibilities. If Equestria needed her, then she stand up to do all she could. She and her friends would use the powers given to them by the Tree of Harmony. But if that wasn't enough, then they reached out their hooves. They asked the princesses for help. Discord for help. Sakura for help. They asked the ponies of Ponyville for help. They asked the world for help. They asked Spike and Nyx for help. Eventually, they would be able to defeat any evil that plagued their lives. Because that was the magic of friendship. Cadence and the others tried to shield their eyes as a peril of light fell twilight. It was warm and bright, like a beacon to another nation. The sky darkened and the clouds blotting out the red sun before a rejuvenating rain poured over the land. The fires of war extinguished. In the distance, the sounds of battle cries began to fill the airs. From the cloud cover, Griffins... Don't say cloud cover mixed with Griffins! Don't follow Equestria, fanboy! Descending in force, assaulting the Diamond Dog hordes. At the same time, an army of Zebra galloped for the forces to fight the enemy. In a single stroke, T-Rex war was being swung in the other direction. The pillar of magic that fell at Twilight collapsed, revealing a much more regal-looking mare. Her mane was long and flowing, like a star field of tiny lights, marked only by the natural bands of color. She was clad in armor reminiscent of the Crystal Empire's jousting armor, full-body plate mail with a helmet that followed her mane into a regal mohawk. For a moment, Twilight stood there. Then she brought a single hoof to her chest. She then took a deep breath, exhaled as she extended her hoof outward. She performed a single gesture to calm her nerves and center her mind. Then Twilight took off like a firework. Nyx had her shield spell up, trying to keep herself and Spike from being crushed in T-Rex's hand. His grip tightened, but the barrier refused to budge as Nyx stood steadfast. That was when Twilight flew in. She released a narrow beam of magic, shooting it between T-Rex's horns, before turning her head sharply to the left. The beam followed, cutting through T-Rex's horn like a half knife through butter! She lopped off the horn with a single spell, forcing T-Rex to shout in pain. He brought up his right hand to grasp his new stump, and fell to one knee, and the sudden sharp pain overwhelmed him. Nyx's Spike took the opportunity to escape T-Rex's grasp. Nyx flew up to where Twilight was, with Spike on her back, both of them smiling at her. Way to go, Twilight! Spike shouted as he pumped a fist in the air. Thanks, but I think it's time we got out of Dreamland. So, want to help me finish him off?
You can't finish me off. You'll never finish me off,
T-Rex said, glaring down the two mares of dragon.
I'll wait. Sooner or later you'll fail. Twilight spoken. Sooner or later you won't be around to save Equestria. And then every drop of pony magic will be mine.
No, it won't. Twilight's horn began to glow as she and Nyx fly towards Treyarch, while Spike looked off to land on the ground below. Because, even if I fail, someone will always stop you. I trust my friends, I trust my family, and I trust the nation of Equestria! Nyx rushed ahead of Twilight, soaring behind T-Rex, before forming her barrier spell. She slammed herself into the back, tackling him with all her might. T-Rex shouted as he lost his balance and toppled forward, even above his shout. Nyx's words rang out of the sky. Because Equestria is the kingdom of friends! Spike positioned himself directly where T-Rex was going to fall. He spun his fist around, and swung it through with a sharp, theatrical uppercut. His fist connected with T-Rex's jaw. The force of the blow sent Centaur soaring upward. And you're all alone with your anger! Spike said as he shook out a fist. T-Rex tumbled through the air, soaring higher and higher. Twilight was weighing what would be the pinnacle of his flight. A massive blast of air as he prepared in her horn as she glared down the face that had tormented her so many nightmares. And friendship will always beat hatred! Now, get out of my dreams!
Twilight, I will never be more than this dream.
Oh, sure, you come up with the coolest line ever, and everybody wants to steal it. With a turn of her head, Twilight pointed her horn downward and into T-Rex's face. Her spell unleashed, a beam of magic large enough it enveloped T-Rex's entire gigantic body. He screamed and yelled, flailed and fought, but this form was shrinking as the stolen magic was being freed from its body. Soon, he was but a shriveled old centaur once more. He fell from the sky. Beneath him was a gateway to Tartarus open, greedily awaiting his return. He disappeared into the portal, not with a word or shout of revenge, but with a snap! The gates of Tartarus closed shut once more. T-Rex was gone from the world, gone from Twilight's dreams, as he couldn't help but smile as blue skies returned to Equestria. Everyone was rushing toward her as she descended back down to the ground below. May have been just a dream, but Spike was bursting with excitement how they spectacularly beat T-Rex. Next was all smiles as she circled Twilight, cheering and throwing her hose skyward. Okay, everyone. I know you're all happy, but we're not done yet. Twilight says he landed gingerly. We have to find the Ouroboros. And if it's not in my dreams, we have to check the others. We aren't out the... She paused a moment to shiver. Snake's belly yet. Within moments, Keynes was drenched by the unforgiving rain. The water came down like it was spouting from a shower, while thick, heavy clouds obscured every inch of the sky beyond. She felt soft grass beneath her hose. Could hear nothing but the cacophony of rain hitting the ground. It was a far different nightmare than the one of fire and destruction Twilight had faced, but it was a feeling like a nightmare all the same. While the others worked to find the Ouroboros in the good dreams of the guards, Keynes had volunteered to search in her husband's dream for both him and the snake. Casting a barrier above her, Keynes shielded herself from the rain, but preventing her from getting further soaked. She then began to walk, climbing up the soft grass hill in front of her. That seemed to be all there was to the dream. The storm above and rolling hills of grass below. Keynes could not see signing anywhere, and was beginning to fear that he would fine. She didn't think he was scared of rainstorms. She knew he wasn't scared of grass, so then what could his nightmare be? Keynes got her answer when she reached the crest of the hill. On the neighboring hill stood a solitary tree, and beneath the solitary tree Keynes saw two things. The first was Shining. He was sitting in the grass with his head hanging down. He was doing nothing to protect himself from the rain. He and his military uniform were soaked to the bone. The second was a stone statue, one depicting an Alcorn male curled and sleeping peacefully. Keynes couldn't see any further details from the rain, but her heart sank in her chest nonetheless. She lingered where she stood a few moments longer, then walked toward the neighboring hill. Each step closer and revealed more details of the statue. Keynes saw her cutie mark on the flank of the stone alicorn. She saw, resting with the stone right distant of herself, a tiny little foal. It was hard to tell if it was a filly or colt, but the meaning of the stone carving was becoming all too clear. She stopped when she almost heard directly behind Shining. There, she could see the words carved into the stones, letters etching themselves into her heart as she read them. Here lies Princess Miyamori Cadenza and her unborn child. One lost to us bringing life to this world. The other lost before our life could begin. Keynes brought a hoof to her chest, struggling to breathe as the muscles in her chest grew tight. Tears escaped her eyes and trickled down her cheek, eventually finding the crease formed by her lips, the crease of a smile. Her lips were trembling, but the smile on her face was undeniable. She could not take her eyes off Shining, nor could she bring herself to dry her eyes. So happy tears decided to flow like a river, for Shining's greatest neighbor showed the strength of his love. With the rain hiding her tears, she could not smile. Keynes took one final step and extended her wing. Wait a minute. Does this mean he loves me more than I love him? Of course it means that I love you more than you love me. If we both loved each other exactly the same cadence, we would die of starvation because we would be stuck in our bed all the time. Oh, Shining, kissing! Her feathers stopped the rain from falling on Shining. He turned to look at her and interrupted his mourning. He stared at her in disbelief. But as he rose from his hose, the rain lightened. A smile formed on his face. The clouds broke apart to reveal the most pristine blue sky Keynes could ever witness. A sky being entirely ignored as she and her dear husband embraced. Shining wailed and cried into her shoulder, and Keynes held him tight and nuzzled to his mane. Her tombstone crumbled away, and the grass grew to fill in the square of dirt behind. The hill was pristine once more, never been marked by a headstone. And on this grass, its hiding place removed and its distance exposed, was a two-headed snake with rainbow scales. Are you sure this is the right place, Grandpa?
Duh! It is no doubt. That point's here.
The look of rocks showed signs of being disturbed. It was a snake, larger than a train.
You are right about the boulders upstream and the rapids, but there is no way to tie a snake up here.
At the moment, the island at the center of the lake burst asunder a second time. The giant Ouroboros roared, extending half its massive length above the ground. It tossed and flailed and then spewed mucus skyward like a geyser. The first spewed sent 4 figures sailing through the air towards the distant trees on the opposite shore. Then the creature roared a second time, before pointing its mouth downward, and vomiting straight into the lake. His foamy spittle floated on the surface, but as the Ouroboros reacted to the hole, several heads began to pop out of the water.
Well, if it isn't favorite customers,
Lumberjack shouted. He gave a wave of his hoof, before taking a grip of the boat's oars and began to paddle closer. Along with him in the boat was a young filly in Maud, who was reaching out with her hook to the nearest pony. "What are you doing here?" Twilight asked as he began to paddle toward the boat. Shiny was using its magic to levitate Cadence into the boat. Biscuit was being pulled in by Maud, while S-43 waved for the same aid. Next to Spike paddling right next to Twilight, splashing around a little in the water to try to wash off the Ouroboros spit. "I came looking for you. He had a map." It's the same Maud didn't get swallowed too. I hate to see what her nightmare was. Maud finished pulling Biscuit in before motioning to Lumberjack.
A true wood stallion always has muffled mountains,
Lumberjack said with a booming voice.
A good thing too. Maud tells me you've been through quite the adventure.
"It's been rough," Twilight admitted as he levitated Spike and Nix out of the water. "But hopefully it's over now."
Ah, with Lumberjack around, you have nothing to worry. Now, come and hurry into boat. You'll need big dinner of wombats. Both of those things can be found in Lumberton.